We're live into the Facebook community, Bosses in Action, episode 41. Who knew we were keeping count? We are. And today I've got some awesome guys and girls here. Renee from Florida. I'm assuming Orlando. Did I get it right? Okay, good.
You got it right. Orlando, Florida.
I love. See, I've been paying attention to social. So.
It's working.
I love it. And Brian Curtis, you're all over. So I'm just going to go with Boulder, Colorado, even
That's
though
where I
you
live.
have your team in Bentonton, Arkansas, right?
Bentonville, Arkansas. Yeah, Rogers, Arkansas. Yeah, Bentonville.
Right,
yeah, home of Walmart.
So
all you people who shop at Walmart, that's where it's all originated from.
I love it. And let us know where you're coming in from, just so we can see. Today we're going to be talking about, it's kind of like a mastermind. We're going to be talking about how we're planning, what we're doing, and maybe even what tech we're looking at, because I love tech and we all love shiny objects. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go with Renee first, Brian, only because Perfect. She beat you by like half a second coming in.
I'm excited about that. I can, that way she gets to.
So what? We'll take all of her good ideas and be like,
we'll just steal them.
That's how this goes, right? You all know that. Whoever goes first, it's like you all can iterate on it. So
that's right.
Like,
Absolutely. But you're awesome. So no worries.
All right. So Renee's got all the great ideas. If we say we were going to do that, we're lying. It's all hers. Remember that. So here we go, Renee. So what are you guys focusing on as a team to be able to do better, right? Yeah. Or even take away and not do it for 2022? Where do you start?
Where do we start? Well, hello, friends. Super excited and honored to be here with Tristan and Brian. Oh my goodness. When y'all reached out, I said, I don't know. I'm definitely in awe of what the two of you are building and continue to contribute to the industry. So a little context, we're a team of now 20. We've added, in the last 3 months, we've added some new family members that we're super excited about. Our production this year for our team is coming in at about 78 million. That production by and large is from a core 10, right? I've done quite a bit of adding and our family has grown quite a bit over the last couple of months. So our production this year is coming in from a core 10 and then next year, just wait, right? So I love, Tristan, that you asked what are we going to focus on for 2022 and what are we going to omit? And then that brings me to this very important word when we talk about business planning, and that's audit. And when we look at our business as intentional business owners, we must take the time and invest in ourselves and our organizations to audit ourselves in a few different ways. So I'll give a few examples on audits. I don't want to hog the mic or anything, but if you all want to share your thoughts on this, I would love to hear from you as well. Some areas that we audit as we business plan for the next year. We audit our database. We, of course, audit our acquisition sources, where we acquire business. We audit our sphere of influence, which I would really like to unpack more. We're doing a pretty serious audit on our SOI. We're auditing social media. We're auditing online footprint. Where do we exist on the World Wide Web? We're doing calendar audits, which I'm happy to share that we're doing some audits on what happens from the time our feet hit the floor in the morning to the time our feet land back in our bed. So we're doing some very intentional focuses to say, where do we lean in? And where do we say, you know what, we tried that, but perhaps it didn't really give us a return on growth opportunity. So it's time to retract some and maybe shelve that for later or omit it entirely.
I'm glad we started with you because now I'm like, oh, I'm an audit. I have a great list, Renee. Here's where it is. Brian, let's see what you say, because then I can add on top of that.
Oh, okay. Look at that, Tristan.
Yeah, Tristan's going to take a both of us.
I am. I'm going to be like, you guys make me look good. That's all I got to say.
Well, and I'm just going to piggyback on what Renee said. That was a fabulous list of audits that she had. Full disclosure, like I won't be auditing my social media. You know, at the in the green room, you know, Tristan said to Renee, you're doing an amazing job on
That's gonna
social
be
media.
edited out, Brian. We're editing that out.
And Tristan didn't bring it up when he was talking about me, and I'm
No.
okay with that. So I do like social media, don't get me wrong, but it's not the strongest part of my business. And so there's an opportunity for growth there, but it's not actually the strongest part of my business. To me, CRM audit it feels like 24/7, to be honest. It's that constant and never ending improvement inside the CRM. I think you use a very fancy term for this. I'm just going to call it lead sources. So at the end of every year, I'm going to look at my lead sources and calculate ROI. And one of the things I think that people make a mistake on, though, is when you calculate ROI. So, for example, I know Tristan and I both use a company called Ylopo. And here's the thing about Ylopo. Yeah, maybe the lead source isn't going to give me a 10-to-1 ROI, but I need a front-facing website. I need some of their tech. I need some. So I want to challenge people when they look at lead sources to not just look at it in a very simple, I paid $1,000, I made $5,000, I got a 5 ROI, that's good enough. There's more to it than that, but definitely for your one-off lead sources, your Zillows, your realtor.coms, your pay-per-clicks, your Facebook lead generation, figure out if it's profitable for you. And then the other thing I think people need to look at with that is time to conversion. And here's what I mean by that. I personally believe a Facebook lead converts from a return on investment standpoint significantly higher than maybe a phone call, a Zillow lead, a realtor.com lead, those bottom of the funnel leads. But how much time, energy, and effort are we putting into converting those? And is your team set up to do it? Because I promise you, I can teach you how to develop a $2 lead all day long. The question is that $2 lead turn into a transaction at any point in time. So I think that's an important thing to look at. And then, for us, we focus on micro commitments. And to me, micro commitments are everything, because I feel like, and I don't know how deep we're going to go into this, but a lot of times we go through the year, say, I'm going to close 500 deals next year. I'm just picking a random number, doesn't matter. And then on December 1st, you go, I've closed 380. I guess I'm not going to make it. That's not business planning, and that's not goal setting. So I would challenge people to begin with the end in mind, come up with your number, whether you're a single agent that wants to do 50, 75, 100, whether you're a team that wants to do 200, 300, 1,000, whatever that is, come up with that goal, because I think it's really vital. But it all comes back to, what are my daily activities I'm willing and committed, not saying I'd like to. The second you hear yourself say, I'm going to try, or I like to, you might as well just throw that out the window, because that means you're not going to do it, or at least not with the consistency that's required to hit big, massive goals. So that's where I'm at. Now Tristan's going to take what I said and what Renee said and put them together. And
actually, I have questions. So, and then I'll tell you, mine's similar to kind of both, but I liked the word audit. That was great. That's a good, great word. And I really like that. And Brian, I loved how you dug in and talked about time to conversion. I think that's so important. I don't think I've ever heard anybody really talk about that. How long does it take? And then
here's an interesting statistic if you want one.
Yeah.
According to I won't say the person's name who did this stats, but they process enough leads. Your average Facebook lead for them was 586 days. So think about that. That's a year and a half. And not that we don't want to close deals in a year and a half, because I plan on being in business. But if you're looking for right now business, you have to balance that out, because you got to keep agents, somewhat happy if you're running a team. Or if you're an individual agent, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably not going to be able to go a year and a half without a closing.
That's true. I love that. Plus, you can understand the lead source and say, hey, is this actually a better lead source, even though it's costing me more, or where am I at with it? So I love both of those. And so I want to dig into Brian first, and then I'll go to Renee. Brian, where do we start if we want to dig into leads? Let's just say opportunities, leads, whatever you want to call them. Where do we start if we're planning for 2022? And you specifically, you're doing online leads, right?
I do. Quite a few.
Yeah, our business is very similar, Brian. And so if I'm going to dig into online lead sources, where do I start if I'm planning?
Well, first of all, I want to know what I did last year. I want to know historically. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be exactly the same, but I want to take a look at 2021, and I can do that now. I've got a big enough snapshot. As long as you have a 6-month snapshot, you can take a look. So I'm going to take each one of those lead sources, and I'm going to look at the amount of money I spend every month, or the total sum over 6 months. It doesn't matter. You can do it either way. And then I'm actually going to look at the conversions that I've gotten. And basically, I just want to calculate my return on investment. And here's the thing. This is not the official way to calculate return on investment, but just take the number of dollars you spent by the number of dollars you made and divide those two numbers out. It'll give you a rough return on investment. That's not the exact official way to calculate ROI, but it's a good number. And for me, if I calculate that number and it's at least 3, then I feel like I'm okay. Now, there is a couple exceptions that I kind of talked about that. My front-facing website, I don't need to have a 3 ROI on my front-facing website because I need one no matter what. I'm sending people there. I'm communicating with people. It's got tech. It's got follow-up. So it has another value that I kind of set aside over here. But the rest of those lead sources, I can say, I spent $1,000 on PPC and I made $6,000. I've got a 6-to-1 return on that. That's acceptable for me. And then what I want to do is take a look at it and go, okay, so here's all my lead sources. This one's 3.2, this one's 2.8, this one's 9.1, whatever they are. And then I want to say, where do I want to double down? Where do I want to cut back? And here's the thing that I think a lot of people make mistakes at. Oh, look, my pay-per-click is giving me a 10 ROI and my Zillow leads are giving me a 3 ROI. That means I should get rid of all my Zillow leads. Well, not necessarily. And then again, I'm not advocating for or against Zillow. That's not the purpose of this webinar. But just because it converts at a 3, also my agents love those. Why? Because it's a lot easier can you show a house today, 123 Main Street? Most agents are happy to get some of those. So my philosophy as a team leader is I want to give some of those people the really easy leads to convert, so that they'd be more willing to work on the ones that take a little bit more time, energy, and effort. So
I like that. There's a question. What would you mind if you told us which 2 or 3 lead sources are your go-to besides YLOPO? Because you always mention YLOPO. They're Google PPC. They do Facebook lead ads. What are other lead sources?
I also run more of my own PPC outside of YLOPO. That's one of my better lead sources. And full disclosure, I run those through Conversion Monster. And then I'm a realtor.com market VIP person. So that's been a very valuable lead source for me. If you're not interested in that source or it's not available in your market, it depends on, again, if you can do long-term, the truth of the matter, Facebook leads are great. But I'm going to have a big but here for me. If you don't have either an inside salesperson or an extreme automated follow-up system, you're not going to close many of them. And you're going to have a horrible ROI. And you're also going to make yourself frustrated and go, Facebook leads suck. They don't. They're just longer term. So you need to have a system that, sends text, that sends voicemail drops, that does emails, that does all that follow-up for you. This is my personal opinion. There are people who have done it without that. But if you're going to get a lead that's on the average going to close in 586 days, I better have a system in place that's not completely driven by an agent, because I love all the agents on my team. They're a great group of people, but their strength is not long-term follow-up. And I don't know a lot of agents who is. So
Brian, what you're mentioning is relevant to any online lead, right? And
True.
When we look at, we're talking about business planning, right? We always want to look at the context too of what is going to make agents skip to work each day. Like Brian, you saying, start with the end in mind, super, super important. Everyone watching, right? B.H.A.G, big, hairy, audacious goal. Dare to dream the biggest dream you can. Start with the end in mind, right? So if you decide I cannot stand a particular lead source, we may not have the freedom yet to make a choice to close that one particular lead source down. But if we want to start to migrate, then the question becomes, do we have the systems, processes, and ability, financial freedom, to be a little more fluid with the way we're building our business? I think one of the biggest pain points in the real estate industry is that there are a ton of organizations, companies who want to sell realtors a shiny object that they presume is a transaction on a platter, and it's not. And you can go to any Facebook group and see a number of people say this lead doesn't work, that lead doesn't work. They all work. Surprise, shocker, they all work. The question is, are we prepared for the conversion portion, which is earning the relationship when the registration is received? And you're spot on with that. I really hope that we take it even like baby steps way back, like letter A, identify your big, hairy, audacious goal. What does your business look like? What is it, like the big, amazing dream that you want to skip to work each day? And then reverse engineer what that looks like. I work together with my husband. We're both team leaders, and we've been operating in an organic-based business for over 21 years. And one of my other pain points, we do online lead conversion, but it's organic based. We do social media, it's organic based. It hurts my heart that agents feel like they have to go spend money before they can invest into the networks and the people that already know, like, and trust them. 99% of the time, you can go at least a solid year or two without ever having to scale with putting money in for buying a lead source. And so I just like to bring that context into the conversation is you can do it. And know that if you are going to start to invest, please make sure you have a strong follow-up system in place. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated because it's brutal not being able to convert those paid leads for the acquisition costs that it costs us.
Absolutely. And I want to say this to what Renee said. I want to say the word and I think that that's a lot of things that people, it's funny when you look at a lot of Facebook groups, obviously we all interact on lab coats in this follow-up community, but I hear people, I do online leads. Okay, great. Then I hear somebody else go, I only do Sphere. I only do this. And like, and it's the simplest word in the dictionary. And, or T. Harv Eker said this. He said, poor people think neither. Average people think or, and wealthy people, I'm not talking necessarily about finances, think and. So think and. What can I do in addition to what I'm doing? Instead of, I can only do this, I can only do that. There's always more way. It's just about creating a different leverage.
That's a really good quote, Brian. How many times did you have to say that to memorize that? I'm joking with you.
I don't know. Stuff gets stuck up here.
On replay, by the way, that was really good. Cynthia wants to know if you can say it again, please.
Absolutely. So poor people think neither. In other words, no matter what I do, nothing's going to work. Average people think, or I can do this, I can work and get paid, or I can go over here and do this, but I can't work and, I can't make money and hang out with my family simultaneously. By the way, you can. And then wealthy people, and again, it's not necessarily wealth being financial, because there's lots of different ways to be wealthy in the world. They think and they're like, okay, I can go and spend the amount of time I want with my family, and I can reach my financial goals. And, Tony Robbins says the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And ask that question, how can I have both? And you know what? Your mind, it may not always give you a right answer, but will give you an answer every single time. So, ask a better question is one of my favorite things to say. Just keep asking yourself better questions. And before you know it, that stuff that was impossible becomes daily habit.
So good, man. I love that. So Renee, how do you break down these goals that you're going to have for 2022 so that they actually happen? Because we're all going to start making goals either now or closer to January. And then a month in, it starts, they start dying out. Like Brian's saying you mentioned micro commitments, Brian. Well, Renee, how do you break them down so that they start happening?
I love this question. And I'll say that I consider myself a forever student, and I always want to say that today I'm stronger than I was yesterday. And so this newer adoption of a very specific, intentional micro goal that we do is over the last 6 to 8 months. And prior to us implementing 5-5-4-2, which I'll explain, we were still being intentional. We would do hour of powers. We would time block for prospecting. We were doing all those things. But what I realized this year, and what our coach was amazing to bring to light, is we weren't breaking it down enough. So Tristan, you're spot on to ask. Now, when we do hour of power, it's about 5-5-4-2. And during hour of power, we should be focused on 5 new conversations with new contacts, 5 database conversations. So someone who's already in our database, SOI, previous customers, and 4 pipeline lead follow-up conversations, 5-5-4. And then we've recently added the 2, and that's not necessarily done during power hour, but it is something that needs to be done each day. And that's 2 intentional content creations on the social media platform of the agent's choice, right? I believe in choosing one platform, getting that platform well oiled, and then decide if you want to go in to bring in another platform, because otherwise we're all just so overwhelmed with all the social media. Like, no offense to TikTok. I know there's many people killing it. I don't even have the app.
Either.
Right. And that's okay. Right. Because I want to skip to work, and I'm skipping to work during Instagram stories and Facebook stories right now. That's what's making me skip to work on social. So 5542, Tristan, is the answer of how we're being micro intentional every single day to make sure that we are achieving our goals, and doing audits of those on weekly one-on-ones, monthly assessment, quarterly leads to annual.
All right. So 5 new contacts.
Yep.
Or conversations, 5 database related contact people that you already know. And then 4 was what?
Lead follow-up. So pipeline follow-up conversations,
Right.
haven't converted yet.
And then 2 intentional creations in social media.
Correct.
Perfect. All right. I love that. See, this is why I don't even have to chime in. You guys are like, you guys got this. Brian.
Sure.
Take me through micro commitments, because it's similar to what Renee is talking about.
Yeah, so let me talk about something that is a huge pet peeve of mine, and why not? Let's talk about negative stuff. Not really, but people misuse this term all the time. And so I heard Renee, not this term, but I heard Renee talk about B.H.A.G, big, hairy, audacious goal. That's a cool thing. And a lot of people have those, and more power to you, go forth and have them. What I would say though, is I feel like goal setting has gotten disrupted in our industry, and perhaps in our country. I don't know. I just kind of deal in our industry. Someone says, I want to close 100 transactions next year. And then they go, and then they close 70, and they go, how do you know? I had the best year of my life. Well, you missed your goal by 30%. How is that awesome? So for me personally, I'm not a fan of setting a ridiculous goal that I know I'm not going to accomplish, because the goal is the end in mind, as Renee iterated a minute ago. And then I've got steps all along the way to make sure I'm getting to that goal. So it really starts with as simple as, what's my commitment for today? And that's why I come back to that. So the goal is way over here at the end, and the commitment is right here in front of me every day. And so on our team, we have a Monday morning meeting, and instead of doing, the daily huddles and all of those kind of things, nothing wrong with any of that stuff. It's just not what we do. We do a small mastermind, just, hey, anything going on. And then each person on our team makes 3 micro commitments. And let me just say that they're not goals. And one of the things that comes here, you hear this all the time. So I say, hey, Tristan, how'd your commitments go for this week? And you say, well, I didn't hit my goal. I said, perfect. We didn't set any goals. How'd you do on your commitments? Because to me, a commitment is something I'm saying I'm going to do come hell or high water. A goal is something I'm striving for. I need both in my life. But I think people make the mistake to just go, and they let themselves off the hook every single day. Did you keep your commitment? No, I didn't hit my goal. Okay, no, we weren't talking about that. You said that you were going to call 50 people today. You said you were going to do a 5542. So did you do a 5542? Well, no, because somebody called and I got tired. And so you didn't keep your word then. And I don't want to say it that harshly to people all the time, but to you watching who don't have someone holding you accountable, that's what I'd be saying to myself. Did I keep my word? Am I a person of integrity? And I know those are like people are going, man, Brian's kind of a jerk. I want people to understand, don't set something just to say it, set something that you are willing to do. Because here's the reality, sitting down and making 500 phone calls one day and not making them again for a month, I'd rather you make 10 phone calls every single day. So do something you can do consistently that you can stick to, because if I'm making 10 phone calls a day, I can translate that to, okay, that equals 1.5 transactions a month. Now I know if I make 20 phone calls a day, I can close 3 transactions a month. If I make 30 phone calls a day, I can close 4 transactions. It allows me to understand what I can do. If I just do this all the time, I have no idea what I'm capable of. And I also have no idea how to get better on a consistent basis.
I just have to mention the B.H.A.G thing. And this is one of the reasons why I love that we're coming together to talk about it, because we can have different lenses, right? Mm-hmm. I was with you, Brian, where I thought B.H.A.G was really silly until I accomplished one.
Let me just say, I don't think it's silly.
And so it's no, but like, I get it. It's like kind of an overused phrase. And I was in an environment where I thought, yeah, I put it out there on this sticky, right? Almost like a North Star, something that was like, ha ha ha, yeah, we could do that. And then we did. And you know, it was crazy. Then we said, oh my goodness, what's next?
Right. That was
And then
easy.
recently, right? Well, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It was like
Fair
8
enough.
years in the making. But then the next step was to realize, and our coach asked us this question 3 months ago and stopped me in my tracks because I didn't have the flippin' answer. And if you don't have the answer, it's okay. I'm still articulating it myself. Tristan, Brian, what are you building?
That's a question for us that we have to answer.
Yeah.
If I were to
All of us, we should be answering.
Geez, that's a good question. I think for me, I want to build, I'm building a legacy to leave behind so that people can continue to run their business through leading with kindness, right? And connecting people that weren't originally going to be connected through the same thought patterns. So that's what I'm leaving.
Yeah, I would say I'm building an organization where people can find their own level of success based on what they want. This was a very challenging thing for me. So I'm a driver, I'm a striver, I'm a, go and make a gazillion dollars, go and win this, win that. And what I realized over the last couple of years is the most valuable people in my organization are not necessarily the rock stars. They're the people who show up every day and I can count on them. And you know what? Me pushing them to be something that they don't want to be. Now, if they want to be, then I'm pushing you. If you tell me that you want more, we're having a great conversation. But if you say, you know what, Brian, I'm thrilled to be in your ecosystem and I'm thrilled to, close the X number of transactions and make X number of dollars and it's good for me and my family, that's fabulous. So it's not always just to me about money. It's about quality of life. And so for me, having our organizations where people can find their own level, where they can go out and, close 150 deals in a year, or they can close 20 deals in a year. Both of those people have value to us and no one's more valuable. Financially, one person may be more valuable, but for the organization, the person who closed 20 transactions is a super valuable person to us too. So it's not necessarily just about numbers, and the ability to find your place, as someone who's struggled to find their place at times, that's super important to me.
I can tell by that answer, you're super focused on culture, and that's so good, Brian. I love that. I love that.
By the way, I put up a link to Jim Collins' B.H.A.G page because he's the one that came up with he expanded on the B.H.A.G terminology. But take a look at that just in case you're wondering what Renee was talking about. And it goes hand in hand, by the way, if you don't think it does, with what Brian was saying, because the way we achieve a B.H.A.G is by breaking it down into these micro commitments, right? So I love where we went. I don't think we usually talk about what we just did. It's usually like, hey, what's your goal? Let's break it down. Let's do it, right? So Renee, Brian, thanks for being on. You both rock.
Listen, I appreciate you, Renee.
Awesome.
It was great
That was
hanging
fast. It was great hanging with you guys. Make it a great day, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.